spent lighting the fire than the lessons they had that day, so he appreciated that too. So that's the time. Then another little lad, here's an article here. It's fitting Miss Rooney. Miss Rooney, I think, is coming on Sunday. And all that's wrong with this, it's Jimmy Fitzsimons. It's Jimmy Fitzsimons because this little echo going through his head every night before he gets to sleep. He says, Shane Dablin and Nulliga. And he repeats this ever so often. He can find out what it's all about in it. It says, Shane Dablin and Nulliga. And he hears this echo in his mind. Where's Jimmy at all? He's about some of this. I saw him running about the place. I hope he gets through that difficulty, but I'm sure he will. We're sorry for his troubles, aren't we? Lurgan Pioneers. Naturally, a book of this dimension couldn't possibly be covered without the mention of Lurgan Pioneers. From the time I remember it's recorded, Paddy Brady, God be good to him, on to Hugh Joe Farley and all the prominent members. They kept the Lurgan Pioneers very much alive, and indeed, Hugh Joe is by Thomas Farley. And again, he gives us a very, very expert, well-researched article on the history of Lurgan Church. Michael Tynan, naturally down there. Michael has a very, very big part to play in this. And you can see himself here this evening as communications with Northern Sound. He has done a homework, and especially, you know when Michael used to do his homework? He never got a chance to do them when he got home. He was sitting there at the cross. Whether he doesn't say exactly whether he copied it or not. At least it was sufficient to satisfy the teacher the next day and keep him out of trouble. Joseph McCabe. Joseph used to love kicking the rag ball. The only difficulty was, and the other ball too, it used to go to Nellie's garden. Ever so often. Now, how he got out of it, I'm not too sure. James Ledwidge. James, he says the hungry hills and the stony roads and the ploughed fields. He says, imagine James reminiscing, I never thought he could reminisce this way at all. He says they were part of our lives on the way to school and especially on the way home. And Sister Bernadette Eames, I never thought Bernadette Eames was up to some such trickery. She says that in the era before the biro, in the pre-biro era, do you know what they were up to? Soaking little bits of blotting paper in ink, in inkwell, and then throwing them at the wall. Of course, they never rolled up to it, you know that? Well, naturally, why should they seen as the master as the father? Is that right, huh? I'm just showing you some little snippets out of it. Larry McCabe. Larry loved when the dentist came, especially when he had to sit in the dentist chair. Because the dentist used to come occasionally and he used to delight him, especially when the girl told him when he get the teeth extracted. But Larry remembers his journey to first confession, being packed, do you remember? Packed into Father Rourke's car, as many as could fit in. And that was the beauty of first confession. It wasn't confession at all, you know. And you know why Eames? You know why Eames perfected her needlework? The expertise of Miss Jude. And to this day, she still, is that right? That's right. She's still many of an award she got for it. And you know, when we leave the primary school, our vocabulary is approximately 2,000 words. 2,000 words. And then you see, if you want to, post-primary, we are told it's about 8,000 and thereabouts. But if you want to get a few words more to your vocabulary, then you can see an article there with Benny O'Reilly. For example, the difference between a blaher and a what's this? And a galoot. Or maybe a sleuther. Oh, they're all explained in that article there. So, also, the book contains little reminiscing of the different nuns and priests from the locality. Sister Philomena McCabe, Anne Farley, Bridget Brady, Bernadette Eames, and Antoinette Fitzsimons. And then the priest, Father Luke Brady, Con McEnroe, Jimmy Fitzsimons, Peter Correagh, and myself. They're all little memoirs there. And I couldn't let this occasion pass about all the other articles. There's a lovely article there about Francie Brady, God be good to him, and the impact that Mockra had here in the Lurgan area and his influence on its growth. Other articles in it are by Tess O'Reilly, Desi McCabe, Maureen Gallagher, Master Sheridan, Claire Mulvey, Tom Multy Fitzsimons, Benny Farley, Sean Dominic Fitzsimons, Eugene O'Brien, John P. O'Reilly, Patsy Chute, Michael Lynch, Lorcan Lynch, Kathleen Clark, Margaret Corrigan, and Edie Flood. It's not a fair crowd, isn't it? And they're all in this book, so they are, every one of them. I'm not telling you now, you know, at all. They're all in it. In fact, and then the poems. Do you know we have powerful literary talent in this locality? Eugene O'Brien, Jimmy Fitzsimons, Owen O'Brien, Joe McCabe, Michael Tynan and Joe McCabe, and again, you'll see, in fact, I counted, there are 58 contributors. 58 contributors from this locality in this little book. And there are 78 photographs. 78. Beginning with the first one here, the old Laurel School, probably that's Masterings, this is in the front, the 2 iron gates and the Laurel hedge. And also, I think the oldest photograph I could see was about 1940. And especially, it's a lovely little photograph here on page 67. And it's no name on it. I was told maybe on the brew, this pupil takes the tea from Mariah's to the school. It'll be 50 years ago or more. Could you put a name on her? I couldn't. Who is it? Oh, wait, let them sort that themselves. Anyway, may I tell you this? This is a unique publication. It's only done once. And it's the best valuable fibre that I've seen in a long, long time. As I said last night, when I began reading it, I just couldn't leave it down because it brings the whole school year into life once more. And there's no second publication. Just one issue. Just one. So I'm delighted to congratulate all those involved. And by the way, when you support their purposes, those who advertise and the big, we acknowledge those, and it's our job to support them. And it's my unique privilege to hereby launch this magazine at this particular moment and ask you all to make sure, not buy one copy, but several, because when it's out of print in a few years' time, it's the right way to invest your money and buy a union.
Thank you very much, Father Paddy. And as I say, the book is on sale now, and you certainly will enjoy it. So go ahead and buy 2 or 3 copies of it. Right, Michael, we'll hand it back to you. Thank you.
Well, our thanks to PJ and Father Paddy and the whole crew for that. We're going to continue with our little programme now for the next hour or so because we still have a lot of people to talk to. And mind you, I think this will happen. It will be ongoing over the weekend because we want to try and squeeze as many as we can. And it's not going to be possible to talk to everybody. However, our next guest on the programme lives on the Old Cork Road in Limerick. And he's a native of Ahacashel. His mum was Kathleen and his dad was Paddy. And he's Vincent. We're talking about Vincent Sheridan. Vincent, we're delighted to have you on this very special occasion.
Thank you very, very much. It was most enjoyable, and I just have nothing but admiration for the work that the organisers have put into this event. Thank you.
Do you mind telling us when you started school, roughly what year, to the nearest 4 or 5?
I think it was 1935, and well, I didn't complete my schooling in Correagh. Our family moved to live in County Meath in 1943, so I wouldn't be the most experienced pupil here. I'm only an 80% pupil of Correagh.
Well, you still hold the balance of power here in Correagh. And who would have been your teachers?
Miss Chute taught me the ABC, and then I think from about 2nd standard I was with Master Sheridan, Sheridan as they would call him here, and from then I think as in 5th standard we went into Mr. Eames's class, but I was only there for 1 year.
I think it would be fair to say that you must have been a very bright pupil insofar as that you made a lot of strides and you find yourself now living on the Old Cork Road in Limerick. Doing what?
Well, I served my time as a motor mechanic, and eventually I was employed by Irish Shell looking after the maintenance of their lorries, and I was employed by them in Dublin, and after 7 years with them there, a vacancy came up to look after the transport in the Limerick area, and that's how I came to live in Limerick. Meanwhile, I'd met my wife in Dublin and we moved lock, stock and barrel to Limerick in 1963 and I retired in 88, so now I'm enjoying the good life.
Indeed. Now, I'm sure that over the last number of years you hardly thought all that much about your school days until you got a letter a couple of months back.
That's true, yeah, but there were certain things I certainly never forgot Master Reams, even that I wasn't with him that long. I remember some really nice things about him. That was always in the back of my mind, you know, so it was only a matter of raking it up.
So you're delighted to be here over the weekend with us?
Absolutely. My thanks again to everyone involved. A lovely occasion.
All right then, Vincent, we'll let it go at that. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. This, ladies and gentlemen, is formerly Kathleen Brady, now Kathleen Dunleavy, and Kathleen lives at Killashandra. And just like the people over the road from you, there was a big family in it too. Kathleen, tell us a wee bit about your school days, and perhaps the first day, starting off.
I remember very little about the first day at school. I remember being in the line when Miss Chute arrived with her bicycle. And she said, "Oh, we have a new pupil today." I'm sure. And I had a slice of oaten bread that Auntie Katie had made. And I gave my parcel of oaten bread to her for the day. That's all I remember about it.
Well, what about the parts coming to school and going home and the Killmans and all that?
Killmans. So there was two awful sins going home from school. One was to go into the Killmans, which we did every day. And you went in first, you'd be hoping he'd throw some chaff on the fire so that the whole lot would blaze up. And then you'd go into Jack and you'd get your handful of meals and you'd eat that. And the other big sin was to go under the bridge in the summertime. Do you remember that? You'd off the socks and go in under the bridge. And you wouldn't be rightly with your toe in the water till Roseanne would be over to the shop and have told on us and it'd be further.
Under the bridges of paradise.
That's right.
Yeah, but I suppose, you know, in one sense, looking back on it, we owe a lot to the school, we owe a lot to the teachers.
We owe an awful lot to the school, and there was a great spirit in the school, and it has continued. And every time I come back to Lurgan, I am amazed at the community spirit in it. I'm down in Killashandra, I'm in a rural area, but you would never meet the spirit that you will meet in Lurgan. And I have been astounded by it on a couple of occasions, really.
I get the impression you'd like to be living back around this area.
No. Well, I always said I would never come back because, I mean, you're gone, your life is in another part on that. But very recently I was in Virginia with Anna from Cornesleve, and I could do so many more things in Virginia than I could do in Killashandra, but I said maybe, you'd never know. But really and truly no, I think where you spend the most of your adult life, it's a big mistake to move the tail end of it. You'd feel like you were thrown out from where you had.
Indeed. Kathleen, listen, I just want to put this on record. You received a fax, was it today, from America? Tell us about it.
That's right. My sister Mary and I were very close in the family. Our family seemed to have broken up in twos. I don't know did yours, but I didn't realise there was more in my family until Mary went to England. And then I started looking around to see who else was out there. But she sent this fax today, and she just brought the whole school to life in a minute. She talked about coming home from school in the bare feet, or going to school in the bare feet, being out at playtime, and then when Master Eames would blow the whistle, and the sound of everybody coming into the hall and into the room, it was such a different sound from winter time when there was the nailed boots and everything, but the shuffle of people coming in, and it just brought the whole room to life in a minute.
Finally, do you remember anything about the last day at school? That's the last day at school here, because you obviously went elsewhere to secondary schools?
I don't remember a thing about it, except I was a bit sad, all right, coming home. I remember that. It was sad leaving. That's all I remember about it. Anna Lynch and I were very good friends the whole way through. But Anna went off at 6th class and I stayed for another year. And I suppose maybe if I had Anna with me, we'd have had some difficulty coming home. But because she wasn't there, I came home quietly, I think.
Did you ever midge?
No, not from national school, but from secondary school. Anna and I had a few trips. One of them where we nearly frightened the daylights out of Jimmy Alton Flynn. We were finished gallivanting at 2 o'clock and we couldn't find anything to do with the day. We went into Lorcan Church and we said, we were there for a while and then we said, what on earth would we do if anyone came in? And we looked to the back. Do you know the 2 little alcoves at the back of the church? And we stood up close to the wall and said, sure, no one would ever see us here. We just decided this is a great plan. And we're back and we sat down, and the next thing, clunk, 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 someone coming up the path. So back with the two of us and into the corner. And Anna stood up close to the wall and I stood up beside her. And the next thing, Alton Flynn came in and clunked his hat on the seat and knelt down to say a prayer. And I found Anna shaking laughing, and I roared out laughing. Poor man jumped that height and grabbed his hat and out and away with him.
There you are, memories I made. Well, somebody mentioned a little bit earlier that Listafana was well represented here tonight, and I think you'll agree. This is Veronica McNamee, now Veronica Farley, and not so bad. Veronica, I suppose you were one of a number of pupils that was unique in one sense, insofar as that you were here sort of at the close up and finished up school at the same time.
Yeah, that's right, Michael. We finished up here in 1970, which is just the year before the school finished. So we were one of the last classes out to complete our education here. And at the time, I can remember that we were delighted that we didn't have to go in, you know, to the townies and that. It was nice to finish up here in the country, that we didn't have to be under pressure from them townies. And now we join them. So
it'll be a little bit like starting all over again.
Yeah, well, that's true. It would, I suppose. You'd feel it a bit of a loss, I suppose, joining up with them.
I can't rightly remember who the teachers were here at the finish. Was it, well, Master Houston?
Yeah, Master Houston was here in the master's room, and when I started it was Miss Rooney who was teaching me, and then towards the end we had Mrs. McEnroe. Did you have any word from her? Yeah, she was, I think she was teaching us the sewing and the singing and that kind of things at the end, you know, so it was, she was here.
You were the youngest of the crew in Listafana, weren't you?
Yeah, I was the youngest of the McNamee family in Listafana, but there were still more people on the lane coming to school, you know, at that stage.
So had they any problems in shifting you out to school, or did you travel along with somebody? Obviously some of the others were...
Sure, yeah, I just tagged along. You know, I was at the end of the family, so there was others coming, and I can remember there were also others to bring me home at 2 o'clock. I mean, there was Bridie Riley who was going on further down the lane, and Rosemary and Maria Riley were going on further, so I was just brought along. No problems. I don't particularly remember any anyway.
Veronica, were the good days, and tell us the truth, were the good days?
There were great days. I was just remembering my classmate today, Connie Fitzsimons, that we used to go up the field every lunch hour and play football. Every lunch hour, Connie would pick a team, I'd pick a team, and we played football. And I can't remember the muck and the dirt or what happened when I went home, but it was great fun, yeah. We learned a little bit as well, I suppose.
But I think it's true to say there wasn't all that much fuss then if you went home with clothes dirty from the schoolyard. There wasn't as much remarks passed as there might be now.
No, I suppose there wasn't, all right. I suppose when these boys come home from school, we're ready to kill them when they're all dirty. I don't think there was that much remarks passed of us.
And I know that it's only 24 or 5 years ago, but there seemed to be a little bit more fussy now.
Yeah, I think we are, all right. Well, maybe it's to do with being in the town as well, but there's a standard when you kind of keep it, don't you?
Did you like the homework?
I honestly can't remember much about the homework or doing much about the homework. I remember just the method of teaching them, and Master Houston had a method where everything was kind of just rhymed off, you know, and it stuck to us, you know. I find, you know, you certainly, could learn off all the counties in the 6 counties in Ulster, or the 9 counties in Ulster. We say he had a method, Fat Dad, from Annar, Matrone, Derry, Antrim down, and then Cavan, and Donegal Hall. I mean, it was just a rhythm that stayed with us all through life then. Same, I think he was good on geography anyway. He had always methods of rhyming things off, which didn't stand to us. I don't know how they're learning now. They don't seem to know much about this.
Now, finally, you're married to Lurkin, so how many wee Farleys are there?
We 3 little men. 3.
Did you say at the minute?
No, I said we 3 little men.
All right, Veronica, thanks.
Thanks very much.
Okay, right. Well, there was a gang of them here as well, over in Cashel, and a gang I do mean, and this is ultimate silence, just in case they might have forgot what you looked like, from the school days, that is. So, you're the man that has become involved with the outside world, if you like, and the telecommunication systems, and you claim to say that you owe an awful lot to Master Eames and those who taught you.
Oh yes, I definitely appreciated coming to Correagh National School, and also the education I got here, the practical education. And Master Eames was very good at maths, and that was one of my best subjects. And communications has an awful lot to do with maths, or the early communications. It was all involved with maths, and I had to go to school and night classes and night courses, to progress up along the line. And I was lucky enough that I was able to keep going, and it was the foundation that Master Eames gave me on maths that helped me.
So are you saying to us that this was an ambition for you and that it was also a dream that came true?
Oh yes, it was an ambition, all right. I was lucky enough, my brother-in-law introduced me to the telecommunication company, and again, I could see the potential that was one of the coming things in the world, and I was lucky enough to be with a company for so long and have such satisfaction.
But you didn't always learn. Tell us a little bit about the mischief that you got up to going to and indeed at school and going home from school.
The only mischief, I'll record it now, there was some disagreement between Father Phil Corrigan and myself, the Corrigans and the Simonses, and there was a boxing match down on a little side lane here, not far from the school.
Who won?
Unfortunately, I think I did. That time all you had to do was get in the first blow, and you see the little drop of blood, it was all over. It was harmless.
Well, you must hit the iron when it's hot.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah.
There were good days, and I suppose a weekend like this, it really brings an awful lot of it back to you. Or did you forget it?
Oh, no, fantastic, And one thing I want to congratulate and compliment is the committee and all the people. I know that Reverend Father has already mentioned it, but it was a fabulous undertaking, and I know there's an awful lot of people that have put in an awful lot of work, to make this happen. So I'd like to, on the behalf of an invited guest, to thank all those people that have done so much work.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Now, just as P.J. Correagh said in the church, that you could have all the committees in the world, but if you hadn't the response from the people locally and abroad, like yourself, well, you might as well be idle. So for that, we want to thank you as well. We could talk for 2 days, but we'll leave it for now. Ultimate silence.
Thank you.
Yes, well, we did tell you that they come from far and wide and indeed right across the world. Here's a girl that wasn't exactly or isn't a past pupil of the school, but her mum was, because her mum was a sister of Eugene O'Brien, and you're Maureen also, isn't that right?
Yeah.
Tell us more.
My mother was Maureen O'Brien from the 9th grade, and she attended this school, and she used to bring us here every summer, and she would show us the school where she went to school, and she was very, very proud of having come here. And I'd like to wish everybody well, and I hope they enjoy their reunion. My mother died 7 years ago, and I felt honoured to come here in her place, and I would like to wish everybody very well. And I know that she will thoroughly have enjoyed this weekend.
All right. You're not going to sing for us by any chance?
Not tonight.
All right. Thanks for that. Well, in case you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is Ita Eames, now of course Ita Clark, living at Bailiver. Ita, we're delighted to have you, and the show wouldn't go on without people like yourself, and indeed your late father and people like him meant so much to it. Just looking around at what you've seen over the last few hours or so, what were your first impressions?
Well, I'm really speechless. I can't get over the wonderful effort that was put into this. It took a lot of work, and I'd like to compliment everybody involved.
Okay, that's very much to the point, and thank you for that. Now, the other thing is that you were a pupil at the school here. Were you a pupil with a difference?
I wouldn't say it was a difference. We had a very happy crowd here, and my particular classmates were Father P.J. Correagh, Eugene O'Brien, Francie Fitzsimons, and May Brady. There were 5 of us, and we have kept up a bond since.
You were brought in that little bit premature.
That's correct, yes, yeah.
At what age? Does anybody know what age you were brought in at?
I don't think we were altogether 4, which was young in those days.
But the gimmick worked anyway, didn't it?
It did indeed. We got an additional teacher, Tommy Sheridan, and I'm sure it was a good plan.
Now, I talked to your sister Kathleen a little bit earlier on in this film and talking about, and I'm sure you're sick and tired listening to this, but being not only a pupil, but a daughter of the teacher. How did that work out for you?
Well, it could be rather embarrassing at times. Not that we were treated anyway differently, but I often felt that I'd let my father down. I know on one occasion, he was a native of Leitrim, and on one occasion when he was questioning me, talking about the towns in County Leitrim, I remember I didn't know any of them, and I felt that I let him down badly. And in little ways like that, I know another occasion, the dentist was coming to the school, and I was in line for treatment, and I got cold feet. And I arrived home, my mother was expecting me home, all ready to with sympathy for me, and when she heard that I hadn't the courage to go ahead with the treatment, both myself and my father got the stick. We were in big trouble. But no, my dad never made exceptions.
Now, of course, besides, teaching here, teaching you and all the others, he also did the necessary little things at home in the evenings, even going down to repairing the shoes.
He did, and we kept a cow. He milked the cow before coming to school in the morning and again in the evening. And as you say, he mended the shoes, and if school bags, straps and school bags were mended, and he'd take on to put a watch together. He had great hands on him.
How did the other the pupils in your class and your time at school, how did they treat you any different? We talk about the pupils now. Did they treat you any, the fact of the matter that you were a daughter of the schoolmaster?
Not at all, no. There was no distinction whatever. We had our friends, we had our bit of crack coming and going to school, and there was no difference. There was no difference.
You're a teacher also for many years, but you're taking it easy now, Lisa.
Ah, yes, I'm retired now, enjoying my retirement.
Well, long may you enjoy it.
Thank you very much, Michael. And
well, of course, ladies and gentlemen, there are pupils from far and wide, and we're delighted indeed that there are so many of the pupils that were here in the early stages of Correagh School, and this was one of them. Formerly Kathleen O'Reilly from Drumgora, she was one of a family of 5. Now Kathleen Clark, living at Buggershta, which is in the lower part of Killincare. You started, I think it was, Kathleen, around 1920, was it?
Yes, 1920, roughly. That's what I remember.
So what was it like in those early days trotting off to school?
Well, it was different to what it is now. It was quiet and different in every way you take it.
There were no buses, there were no cars, there were no bicycles.
No, nothing.
No, nothing. Was there any fun or crack going to school, you know, looking for birds' nests or looking for fellas maybe at an early age or anything like that?
Oh, we might look for birds' nests, but nothing of any account otherwise.
Now, I mentioned there that you were one of 5. Where did you come in there?
I was the 4th oldest.
So who's ahead of you?
My John and Michael, my sister Nellie in America. My brother Josie was the youngest.
Did you go to any other school other than Correagh School? Because I know that some members of your family would have started at Latoon.
I went to Latoon school for maybe a month or 2. I don't remember anything more about it.
Of course, where you lived, where you were situated, was a sort of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. You were sort of halfway.
Yeah, well, I suppose so.
Right. Can you recall or remember any of the people that you linked up with on the road going to school, around Lisgrave Cross or over the road?
Oh, the Farleys. Michael Farley and Molly and Nellie and Bridgie and Catty. And I remember all them Farley family.
Rosaline Brady, was she on that list?
Rosaline Brady and Bright. Bright is in the same class as I was. She's out now in Australia, she's a nun. And I remember Anthony and Kathleen as well.
Yeah, the Anthony Bradys we're talking about.
Yeah, that's right.
So what about when you finished up school then? What happened after that?
Oh, sure, I stayed at home. When my sister went to America, I stayed at home with my mother. I never had been any place until I got married.
But you did make a trip or two to America recently, I think, did you not?
Oh, yes. I've been in America 4 times. So
Did you like the plane?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I wasn't a bit sick or anything on it. So I hope to go again to my niece's wedding in next April.
Yeah. Now, you say, and I'm sure that most people would agree with you, and that is that, you know, pupils going to school now, that they couldn't possibly have the same fun, or maybe they have their own fun in a different way, but it's different fun than the fun you had because of the fact that you walked to school.
That's true. We walked to school and had nice, simple fun. Not like nowadays to go on a bus, so they don't have to walk anymore.
Did you like it when you were at it? I think you did.
Yeah, I love school. But I quit school when I was 14 years.
So had you any ambitions leaving school as to what you might, you know, wind up or where you might wind up?
Well, not at that time. It was very hard to get a job or anything at that time.
But of course you came from a firm family background, if you like, so you continue there.
Yeah.
Now, I mentioned this to some of the others, Kathleen O'Reilly, formerly from Correagh, now Kathleen Clark at Bugaska, and that is that when you came this evening to Correagh, when you came to the church first, did it wind back the years? Did you meet any of the old friends?
Oh yes, it was lovely tonight. I met all my old friends.
And you enjoyed all that?
Enjoyed it very, very much.
Good. Kathleen, thanks for having the chat with us.
Okay.
Well, there's a broad smile if ever I saw one, and I don't think anybody could misjudge this man because this is one of the McKeowns. This is Sean McKeown, emigrated with his family, with his parents, just over 40 years ago. Is that right?
That's true, yeah. We left here when I think I was about 11 years of age. I went to England, and I spent about 12 years in London and then emigrated to Australia. And I've been there for about 28 odd years. Love it. Love it. Oh, I love it, yeah. But it's great to come home. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I was looking forward to it ever since I got the letter.
It's great to come home, but you couldn't see yourself ever coming back to settle?
No, on a holiday it'd be great, but not now. I've got all my family in Australia, so I've got grandchildren and things like that, so it's pretty hard when you have a family. Yeah, I don't think they'd want to come, well, they'd love to come back on a holiday, but
There's been a lot of questions asked over the last 5 or 6 months or so about all families, and I would have to say the McKeown family in particular, insofar as the people weren't exactly aware as to where they were and how many were in it, because I understand that your parents passed away only recently.
They did, yeah. Dad and Mum passed away about 4 or 5 years ago. I've lost my brother Tony and my sister Kathleen. She's passed away as well. So we've had a couple of ups and downs in the family. But my sister is here, Annie, my brother Patrick, and his son. So there's about 4 of the McKeowns represented tonight.
You could almost do the deck of cards with that one.
We could do as well. Yeah, it'll be great.
Did you take a ramble up around the little house?
I went back to your house up the road there. I was round here today. I seen the well and all the trouble you used to get me into.
Yeah.
Up on the haystacks around Brady's and stuff like that, but we won't say nothing about that.
Oh, blame me, the usual, isn't it? There were good days, there were great days. What about the school days? And you were very, for the amount of time that you were here, and you say you left at 11 or you left along with the family. What do you recall from the school? And obviously you were very close to it. Was that a help or a hindrance?
Well, times it was a hindrance because you could never mitch from school. The master used to look out the window, and if you weren't over in time, he'd come and get you.
Yeah.
And give you the stick at the back of the legs, too, as you walked in the door.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the higher you jumped, the higher he hit you.
Yeah. But devil a bit of harm it, did you?
No, never done me a bit of harm. Actually, I owe him a lot.
Exactly.
Actually, it's the best thing that ever happened, you know what I mean? And, no, he's really made the foundations for my career, what I've choose to do, yeah. It's great.
Right. Do you mind telling us, because obviously you're very much down under, in the right direction, in what line of business you're at now?
I work for myself and I build swimming pools. I've got my own contractors and everything, so I've been doing that for the past 20 odd years.
Well, we build swimming pools in this country as well, just on the side roads.
Yeah, I know, and in the boats. Yeah, it's great. It's great to come home.
Right. Do you still sing the odd song you do?
Oh, love, and the dancing. Every time I hear an Irish jig or a reel, me feet starts tapping.
Right. So does that mean you're going to sing for us now?
Oh, I couldn't sing. I couldn't sing at all. I haven't had any drink. And I've got to have a couple of jars in me before I sing.
Yeah.
And then you can't shut me up.
Just say it helps.
Oh, it does. Takes away the headaches. Right. I get terrible migraine if I don't get a drink.
Have you met many people from the past?
Yeah, I've met quite a few, but really not as many as I wanted. But we've still got 2 more days. And it's going to be great. Just exchange things and talk, and I've met quite a few people.
Is there a twinge of nostalgia going through the head?
Oh, yes. Yes, my word. Oh, yeah. Joy and, you know, some sadness, things when you're taken away from Ireland. I'll always be Irish. It doesn't matter where you go in the world. You'll always be Irish. And it's great.
And for the number of years that you've been away, you little more than lost the old local accent.
Oh, it goes. Yeah, it just disappears. It's not because you wanted to get rid of it, but even in Australia, a lot of people still says they'll pick you straight away for being Irish. They'll say straight away what part of Ireland you come from. And with great pleasure, I'll tell them, County Cavan. Yeah, great. Correagh.
Well, they say the crack was 90 in the Isle of Man. This is Paddy McCabe. Doesn't he look well? Paddy, talk to me. Tell us a little bit about the school and the early days, because that's really what we're all here for, just to reflect.
Yes. I started here in, I think it was 1942, and I left in 1952. In between times, I didn't like school all that much, but nevertheless, I stuck it out. And I used to get a prize every year for being the best attender, and I think I got that on at least 5 occasions. The master used to give me a fountain pen at the end of the year for being a good attender, you know. And I hated school. All I dreamt about was the last day. And the last year I was at school, all the pupils had left, and I didn't have another class to go to. I had reached the last class when I was 13, and I had to stay for another year until I was 14, right? During that time, the master would go away to meetings and he'd leave me in charge of the school, which I quite enjoyed. I felt quite important.
You're on the verge of promotion.
That's right. And suddenly I began to think, God, I like this. I could stay on. And the day came and I had to leave, so I accepted it. Although I hated school, the last few months I loved it.
Were you sad? You were sad, obviously, leaving.
I was, yeah. I thought, you know, this is the career for me, teaching all them kids down here, but didn't come to pass. Anyway, most of my time at school, I sat beside Michael Brady, and he's not here tonight.
Michael, as in the shop.
Yes, at James's brother, and I don't think I've seen him since I left school, and I'm very disappointed that he's not here tonight.
Well, sure, I'm sure you'll see him before the weekend is finished.
And another was your brother Patsy, whom I've seen from time to time when I come home. I'm very pleased I am to see him too. He's one of the nice guys that I know in this area. He lives in Dublin, of course. But he's one of the few people that I went to school with that I still see when I come home. And I enjoyed my time probably with Miss Chute, because she was very kind and dignified person. She did her job with great dignity, and I remember her with a lot of affection. The master did his best, and there's nothing really much I can say except...
Can you tell us anything about, you talk about your school colleagues, can you tell us anything about some of the caper that you got up to, some of the carry-on, some of the mischief, or maybe some of the more serious things?
Oh yeah, I remember we used to play tricks on James Brady. Remember James that lived along the road there? Myself and Tom Cairns and Peter McKevin. They're all not here tonight either. We go down the lane, and one evening Tom had a box of matches and he set James's wooden gate on fire. And of course we all had to stood around looking until this got into a blaze, and then we all ran off. So the next evening James was waiting, and he walked out and he catched Tom and he said, "Tom, was it you that buttoned me gate?" "Oh no," said Tom, "it wasn't me." James said, "I think it was. Don't do it again." And James, as you know, was a very serious man, but a very good type of a man as well. But he didn't like having his gate burned, and quite right too. Nobody wants to have their gates burned, but that's one of the things that happen when you're going to school. We used to also sneak down and get into the miller's orchard and take a few apples. Everybody done it. We all knew where to hole in the fence and get a few apples and one thing and another. Sometimes we jumped across the ditch on the other side and pick up the turnips that was growing in Paddy Riley's field. We used to eat the turnips as well. They were good nourishment, they were.
It made men of you.
Yeah, that's right. We did. There were hard times. We always went to, we never wore shoes from May until September, maybe longer. And we enjoyed that. Everybody was on the same level. Everybody went barefooted. And that was the way life was in those days. And when we left school in the evening, we sometimes went to work for local farmers, cleaning out the byres, sometimes dropping spuds, sometimes picking spuds, sometimes trying oats. Because in those days, Ireland was a proper agricultural country. It's not like that today. But there you are.
So there you are. Now, obviously people would be anxious to know, and when they watch this, where is Paddy McCabe now, apart from standing here beside us?
Well, I'm happy to say I live in London, have done since 1959, and it's a fact that I work for a couple of schools. I'm the caretaker, and I enjoy my job very much, working in the education system. Although things are hard now for teachers and one thing and another, but still, I enjoy what I do, and the teachers that I work for and the people that I work for appreciate what I do for them, and I'm quite pleased to be doing the job I'm doing.
Now, finally for now, when you were first informed about a past pupils reunion here at Correagh, how did you react?
I was very pleased, because I didn't think that the wherewithal was within this community to undertake such a thing. And I'm very pleased, and I'm delighted that people had the wherewithal and the vision to see that it would be a good thing. And I'm delighted to be here tonight, because I've met a lot of people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And I hope I'll meet some more before the weekend is out.
And I'm sure you will, Paddy McCabe. From Lisnavana, thanks a million for talking to us. We'll continue, but we're going to wrap it up fairly shortly for tonight because we'll be talking to a lot more people, of course, over the weekend. Let us finish with two, or rather start this new version with two ladies. Formerly Rosaleen Fitzsimons, now Rosaleen Kiernan, and also formerly Siobhan Manning, and now Siobhan Hetherington. Is that the right way to say it? We'll start with you. Rosaleen, I don't remember you at school because obviously I was way ahead of you. What year did you start and what year did you finish?
Oh, I started in 64, yeah. And I must have finished in 70. School closed in 71. I finished the year before it closed. So that was it. Great days. Well, I don't remember so much the classroom, but I remember the fun. Coming and going, that was more important.
Yeah. You're telling us now that there were great days. Tell the truth, did you like it?
I don't remember a whole lot about the classroom. It was great fun outside and there was great fun coming to it. And I remember Lorcan Kennedy nipping me. Other than that, I don't remember much else.
Nipping you?
Oh, very severely. I had marks for weeks after him.
Right, so you may as well tell us now, where did he nip you?
On the hands, no place else. No. Not going to tell you anyway.
So it was a sore point?
Oh, it was. I have to get my hands on him some of these days, please God.
1970, you say you wrapped up, you finished in 70. What happened after that? Where did you go then?
I went to the vocational school in Virginia. And I progressed to be a fungi technician.
Did it work?
I say I progressed to be a fungi technician, so you can figure that one out.
Tell us more about it.
No, that's all. Do you believe that?
You look well, I'm telling you on this. Siobhan, what about yourself? Are we talking about the same years here?
Yeah, near enough the same. Actually, we were talking about it earlier on, and Mummy often tells the story about how Rosaleen's sister pushed our Helen, my sister, into the nettles. We used to have the plantain. Do you remember the plantain? Plantain. We used to call it the plantain. It was the trees and there was the height in the front of it. And Gabriel, Rosaleen's sister, knocking our Helen, off the wall into the nettles, and Mummy going mad when Helen landed home. So different bits and pieces. The different games and Tig and the King of the Castle and that.
King of the Castle was a big game, all right.
Paddy McNamee stealing the towel on the way home and throwing it up in the trees. That was very important that time around our house. The towel didn't come home and the teachers were looking for it the next day and it was still above in the trees. Now, go on ahead.
Now, you talk about Rosaleen and you were pals. Who are the other people? Who did you sit beside? Was it this one here?
I don't think so. I think there's about a year between us or whatever else. I don't know. P.J. Brady and Jacqueline Riley and the McGivers were still here, and oh, and the Rileys, and they're not here tonight at all. Joseph Brendan's, the girls. I didn't see Anne or Eileen or Tricia. Yeah. But there's none of them here tonight. So maybe tomorrow.
All right. Was that hard, Rosaleen? Was it very hard? We want to embarrass this one another wee bit. Was this hard? What you're after? Well, I suppose if you're not going to forgive Lorcan Kennedy.
Oh, I'm going to meet him tomorrow.
You're hardly going to forgive me either.
I'm going to get him tomorrow.
Siobhan and Rosaleen. All right.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Be careful. There you are, 4 Sheridans here, 4 Sheridans from, would you believe it, I forgot the townland already, Pat? Drummond, is right. Now, we talked to Pat before, we're going to talk to Evelyn. Briefly, you'd be sort of in and around the same area as myself.
That's right. Yes.
Do you mind telling them? 1950 what?
7, is it? No. What a
I
Tommy.
think it could be.
What did you ask me? I couldn't hear what you
We're talking about when we started school. I think it was around 1950,
What year did we start
1956,
school?
was it?
1957.
57?
Yeah, that I
Right.
started.
So that was in and around the same time that Miss Rooney started here.
Yes. When Miss Rooney came, I was just 1 year there when Miss Rooney came. And I was into senior infants. Then she came. I remember her well. Well, I had missed shoot for the first year.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you like the school?
Yes, it was nice. Yeah, I did. I enjoyed it.
See, people are sometimes a wee bit afraid to say, oh, we didn't like it, it was a horrible place, or whatever the case might be. It mightn't have been horrible, but there were people that didn't like it, and we were no exceptions. But you're telling us you got on well.
Oh, yeah, I liked my school. There was no year that I didn't like. I was very happy.
Who did you sit beside, or who sat beside you?
Concepta McNamee. Pauline Brady, I think, at one stage.
Did you like the homework, Evelyn?
Not so nice, no. Not really, but we had to do it. Had to get on with it and do it.
It was a bit difficult when there was games to be played maybe in the evening when you went home, and then had to start into that.
You had to spend several hours doing homework. Remember, you wouldn't be allowed out to play till everything was done, and when you had finished the homework, then you could go out to play.
Now, just finally and briefly before we wrap this part of it up with you, and that is that people are always curious to know where people are now. Where did they go? Where are you now?
In Kingscourt, only 17 miles from Virginia. I'm there now 14 years.
And how many of a family have you got?
2 boys. They're at school in Ballinamony in Ballyborough.
So you did well. Claire, or Evelyn rather, thanks. Claire it is. Claire, how are you? If we didn't get you with the right boot, we got you with the left one.
Just right, yeah.
You were a little bit later starting, obviously.
I was, yeah, a year or two after Evelyn.
Just a year or two?
Yeah.
So you popped into Teresa Rooney at the time. What do you remember of it?
Well, I don't remember that much really just remember just in and out to school, that's all. I don't remember that much about it now.
Did you like it when you were at it?
Yeah, it was okay, yeah, I did, yeah. Yeah, I did, yeah.
What do you think of the school, the past pupils reunion? Do you think it was a silly thing, or is it a good idea?
No, it's a good idea, it is, yeah. I met a good lot of friends now.
Were you talking to anyone in particular this evening so far that you haven't seen in a long time?
Yeah, a few of the Fitzsimonses. I was talking to them, I was delighted to meet them. Yeah. Connie Fitzsimons and Raymond Fitzsimons.
And just as I mentioned to Evelyn, they want to know, where are you now?
I'm living outside Ballyjimstuff, a place called Derrylea.
And you're married to a fella called?
McCabe, Sean McCabe.
And there are little McCabe's, how many?
5.
No.
Yeah, 4 boys and 1 girl. Yeah.
No, was that hard?
No, it's okay now, yeah.
Bernadette.
So it's okay.
Bernadette, what about yourself? We're going to have to pull you out a little bit here so as that they can get a proper look at you. See, when you keep looking in there and shaking and smiling, and they keep looking at you, say, God, she's a fine looking woman, that one, and she's a product of Correagh School. And that's it in a nutshell.
That's it.
Were you the youngest?
Yes, I was the youngest.
What age were you in 1971?
In 1971, let's see, I would have been 11.
Isn't that a sneaky way of finding out what age? You know what I mean? So you'd have been 11 in 1971, so that means that you started back during the mid-60s or thereabouts.
Yeah, 65, I think I started school at.
Were they good days?
They had them all to bring me.
You had, of course.
Yes,
you were lucky insofar as...
I was lucky,
Right.
yeah.
It took a little bit of the burden off, and I presume it was a burden.
Oh yes, yeah, it was, yeah. Should we got there?
What about the going to and coming from school? Just like the other side, you had your own share of crack over the other way. Out to the cross, up the hill, Corrigan's shop, the whole works went along with it.
The whole lot. Oh, we had great fun. To and from school.
What would have been your favourite subject at school?
Geography. Like geography. English.
I like the way you didn't mention the Irish.
No, I didn't like it.
So there you are. So where are you now, Bernadette? You're
I'm in
Bailieborough.
Yes, in Bailieborough. 2 kids, a girl and a boy. The girl is 13 and the boy is 9.
Now, we talked to the 4 of you, we talked to Pat a bit early, and then we talked to Evelyn, and we talked to Claire, and we talked to you. But you also have another sister, Marie.
Marie, yes, Marie. She's in Correagh. And she has 4 kids. She has 3 girls and 1 boy. So she's in good form, no bother on her. Great form.
Well, that's good. We're delighted to hear that because
Yes.
she has been through that.
She went through a lot.
She had her share of trouble.
Yes, she did, surely.
Do we expect to see her over the weekend?
Yes, she's coming down tomorrow night. She said she'd come tomorrow night.
So, finally, Bernadette Shorten, how are you fixed for a song?
Oh, I wouldn't be a great singer now. No, I wouldn't take that on.
Will we push you?
No, not at all.
We'll help you?
No, not at all.
No go.
No.
All right.
No, I wouldn't be one of them ones now.
Okay, Bernadette, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you, Michael.
Hold this.
Ready to go?
Yes.
I have Mickey Tynan here with me tonight, and I'd just like to, after him kind of sussing out who everyone else felt about Correagh School, I'd like to turn the tables on him and ask him what's his great memories of Lurgan School and our Correagh School and some other memories of the Correagh area. Welcome, Mickey. You're after doing a lot of hard work here tonight, and I'd like to ask you what's your first memories of Correagh School here?
First of all, you're very sly, and you're also very quick, and you're cheeky, and you're a great character, and that was a good bit of thinking. I'm delighted with that. And if you want to know what I thought about Correagh School, and obviously people sometimes are a little bit reluctant to say exactly how they felt about the school, I would have to say, and I've heard a lot of different stories from different people going around when we're putting the little bits and pieces of the book together, and we got different reactions.